Hello, Manchester United have a worldwide fan base. Our own listeners and presenters on the channel come from different corners of the world. Do you get frustrated that you can't watch Manchester United, or for that matter, Premier League football, or any certain live sport events because they are not televised or available in your country? Well, friends, we have a solution. Did you know that with NordVPN you can switch your virtual location to a country that is showing the game so you don't miss out? You can watch the action live and then catch up with us to discuss it afterwards. If you're concerned about cybercrime and people stealing your private data, NordVPN has you covered for that as well. It's a one-stop shop for cybersecurity. It's easy to use. You don't have to be a tech genius to use it as well. I can do that, so you can do it as well. With your NordVPN account, you can protect up to 6 devices. There's no hackers, malicious sites, or pop-ups to worry about. That's for the price of one coffee a month. You can have complete peace of mind knowing your devices and data is protected. That is a small price to pay for premium cybersecurity and access to not only sport but entertaining content from all over the world. You can get your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com. Devils 10 to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 months for free if you go today. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's NordVPN/Devils10, and the link is in the comments as well for that. So this is Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by former United players Lee Lawrence and Phil Marsh to talk over a decent week at United for a change. And I feel sorry for Keane, who's not here. Got a good win to talk about, but I've jetted in while Keane's at work. If you're watching the video live on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Subscribe, even not subscribe. Subscribe. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to get your comments and questions in. If you're watching on the replay, do feel free to comment. We do reply to that as well. And if you are listening, finally, on the audio podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe on the platform you're listening on. Lads, it's been a while since I got to talk to you. Phil, I'll come to you first. I'm going clockwise. It's not out of preference, Lee, before you get Mardy with me. So, Phil, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Great to catch up with you. Obviously not seen you for a while, but yeah, everything's good from my end. Said great win the other day. I think best performance for me that we've seen certainly this season. So yeah, lots of positives hopefully to talk about, and obviously we will touch on Cristiano's situation probably as well, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, can't avoid that one. Lee, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Very busy at work, which sometimes is a good thing, and other times you don't get a chance to do anything you want to do. But I'm not complaining at the moment. But yeah, all good. Everything's all good, my end, mate. Like Phil just touched on the fantastic, well, probably one of the best performances I've seen for a long time for United 11. I'm sure we're going to touch on that, and fingers crossed it's going to be another happy day tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's going to be one. I mean, you've got to work through the daily to put the radiator on at night these days. So let's not get political. It's a football podcast. So, in the famous words of Roy Keane, lads, it was Spurs. So, United 2, Spurs 0. One of the best performances, Phil, you said that since certainly this season, possibly the best under Ten Hag. One of the best. A lot of people are calling it one of the best since Fergie retired. A lot of high intensity. I've got one little game I'm going to play with you guys a little bit later on after we talk about the game. A little game that I want to bring to you both so you can start thinking about it already. In 5 words or less, I want you to try and describe United's style in the way that you would want to see it. And did you see those characteristics on Wednesday against Spurs? Phil, I'll come to you again first with this. 2-0. Fantastic first half performance, and I'm going to be honest, gets to half time, the intensity is high, something like 18 shots in that first half, like 18 or 19 shots, some really good saves from Lloris. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be honest, not being pessimistic, but I'm thinking, do you know what? We might have lost our we might have lost the chance here, you know what I mean, the momentum. But then we score early on in the second half and it restores that. The team come out playing exactly the same kind of intensity throughout at least 75 minutes. They kept it up. And then I don't even think there was a necessary control in there. It's just that, Spurs they had nothing and United were able to see the game out from that point once we started making the changes. You said, Phil, one of the best performances of the season. I think that's unquestionable. Nobody's going to query that. Do you think it's fair to even put it in the bracket of like one of the best in the last 9 years?
Yeah, as I said, Wayne, I think for me it was one of the best, if not the best that I've seen in a very long time. Complete performance for me, as close as you sort of going to get at this moment in time, as where we are as a club of what we would expect, and obviously the benchmark has been set now with that performance. I think 1 to 11, every single player, energy, desire, confidence on the ball, looking to do the right things and making right decisions. And yeah, it was just great to watch. I mean, we've sort of watched a lot of different styles in that 9 years. You've probably just touched on there with different managers, different players. And for me, that the other night was sort of some of the football that I've, been waiting to see for a very long time. I think, the pressing you touched on was brilliant. Defensively, to keep Tottenham, to a couple of shots during the game with the attacking prowess that they've got is, a job in itself. Thought, going forward, we looked a threat. Obviously, Lloris had an absolute fantastic game, and the game probably could have been 4 or 5-0, and that wouldn't have flattered us. Do you know what I mean? I think it was that good of a performance. And yeah, just for me, I think the big players turned up. Great to see Casemiro. I think that was his best performance by a country mile. I think he's announced himself now. Looks like the player that we all knew and that we've needed for a long time. Thought Bruno, that was his best performance as well for me for a long time. Fred, he's popped up with a goal, gets a lot of criticism, but he's been in the team for a reason. He, as I think Ten Hag said to him before the game, "Are you ready?" He says, "I'm always ready," and that's the kind of attitude that you want from your players. So yeah, for me, it was a really great performance, and lots of positives to take away from that. And I think I did say this last week to Keane. I think this run of games that we've got at the moment, obviously Newcastle last week was a little bit of a disappointing result, but I wouldn't get too disappointed with taking a point away from that, because they have been in great form as well. I said 7 points from these next three games would be a really good return and would keep us on track for for what I think will be a good season for us this year. Would be finishing in the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, I mean, Phil's just ruined it for you by going through all the star performers. He's picked them all out, but it was one of those where they were all over the pitch, right? They were fantastic. Like Hell is she's making some great comments here. With Kane and Son neutralised, Spurs don't have much to offer. And what is it with goalkeepers coming to Old Trafford having a world day? Well, I remember the old Brad Friedel days, and we could probably even go further back than that. But yeah, I mean, he did have a fantastic performance, and I think the thing that pleased me most, and is pleasing me most with the Ten Hag reign, is that you see responses. Like a lot of times in the previous, I might even go back like sort of this like 9 years, is that, but particularly the last year, because under Ollie we did see a really good provocation from this side. If they were sometimes really good at, like, if they were going down at half time, they'd come back in the second half. They were learning, but then under Rangnick it was, and under Mourinho at times it was kind of like, if they got defeated or if they had a setback, they sort of felt sorry for themselves, and the slumps were remarkable. But this time, with a lot of the same players, but probably more down to the management and the leadership, that there are responses. And yeah, we were flat against Newcastle. Like Phil said, you've got to give credit to Newcastle, first of all, for the game plan, which they were always going to be unapologetic about. That's the way that they were going to play. And they are draw specialists this season for a reason. But you want to see a response from that point. And Spurs are obviously a better side than Newcastle. So to come out and play the way that we did with these star performances all over the pitch, I guess putting the same question to you, Lee, really, obviously, I think you'll probably be agreed that it's the best performance of the season. Do you think it, like in all things considered, it's probably one of the best since Fergie retired?
100%, mate. Yeah. The difference for me, and I've got it wrote down here in massive big capital letters, is that attitude, mate. For me, 1 to 11 all over the park, the work rate and the attitude and the teamwork. What's been missing for a hell of a long time. Look back, it looked like it was finally something was setting in and kicking in, and they weren't just working for themselves. It looked like they was working for each other. The midfield with Casemiro and Fred, I thought, worked particularly well in that game. I thought they did, they complemented each other really well. I can see why they start for Brazil in that position. Yeah. But all over for me, Dalot again. I say it every week. He's made an absolute mug of me because I thought I wouldn't have put him in the reserves last year, and this year would be probably one of the first names on the team sheet. He's having a fantastic season up to now. Varane and Martinez at the back, again, solid, clean sheet, absolutely, like Hellis said then, neutralised Son and Kane. Sometimes they didn't even realise he was on the pitch. They had a great game against them. Luke Shaw is doing his old trick again, where it looks like they bring this player in and he sets the world on fire, which is a good thing. There's nothing better for a squad than having strength in depth, and that's what looks like what we've got now. And competition, any competition for me is healthy competition. You bring the best out of each other when you've got someone who's ready and waiting just to nip in front of you if your standards start slipping. So we're building a squad now. It looks like Ten Hag started implementing his ways, especially with the attitude and the running and the working hard ethic, which let's be honest, last season it wasn't there under Rangnick. It was completely lost for me. It was just like banging me head against a brick wall every time I watched the team. There was the lack of effort and intensity was unreal sometimes. But the quality, the passing through midfield with Fernandes and even Fred, and he's not known for his quality of passing, but some of the passes and the through balls he put through the other day, he even surprised me. Rashford again on another day. If it weren't for Lloris, he's scoring an hat-trick. But what I was particularly impressed with is up there on his own, but his work rate was second to none. He was chasing every ball, working hard for the team, and it just something seemed to have clicked. But with me, I always think when we're slightly underdogs, we always seem to perform better than when we're like the favourite to win. But yeah, you can't really add any more to that than what you and Phil said. It was a fantastic watch. It's the first time after the full 90 minutes that I've gone to bed happy and pleased with what I've seen. I can't really criticise anyone on the field. I don't think there was anyone in particular where you could say, we could have done better or whatever. I thought it was an all-round great performance.
Yeah, I saw a clip. Someone posted a clip of Roy Keane the other day, and the timing of his tackles. And you forget, because obviously we're in almost like a generation where tackling isn't fashionable anymore. But the clip, I've seen Keane wrap his legs around and come away with the ball. I'm like, oh, that was good. But then you see Casemiro do it like the other night. He was doing exactly the same kind of things. The rangy legs, obviously more rangy legs than Keane, but he was wrapping his legs around and he got booked at one point and he still went in for the tackles after. And I was wincing a little bit, but when he went in, you knew that he kind of had that authority. You knew he was going to, he wasn't taking a risk. He still knew he was going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely outstanding. And I do look at this. You mentioned Casemiro and Fred playing together for Brazil. Now, I'd be interested in you guys' thoughts on this because obviously Fred is a different kettle of fish when it comes to the kind of opponent that United face now. Against Newcastle, a team who are going to play back, they're going to make it difficult. So a player like Fred, who's prone to making rasher decisions on the ball, and he's not really a great midfielder for the sake of argument, let's say when you're keeping the ball, when you want the rhythm and you're turning the ball over, he's not really. That's not his strength. His strength is playing in a game like Spurs where they're going to try and bring the game to you, and he can break between the lines. And like you said, there was a great ball to Rashford in the first half, wasn't there? Obviously Ten Hag he's still learning this system. He's still learning the squads. He's still learning the right partnership in there. Lee, I'll come to you first for this because you brought it up about these guys. Do you think that Casemiro and Fred can learn to play together against any kind of opposition? Or do you think that this is still a case of 10 out of 10? All right, Fred did have a good game against Spurs, but we've still got to be looking at him and deciding the opponents that he can play against in the Premier League, because obviously quality on the ball and keeping the ball is going to be important in a lot of these big games.
Yeah. What you just said there, I would definitely do that. Like I said, we've got the players now in the squad to rotate as of game by game. So, like I say, against the Tottenham or again against the Chelsea, maybe tomorrow, where it looks like we might be put under the cosh a little bit, and get one around. For me, I'd probably start on both again in a game like that. Like I say, when we're just trying to be high intensity and get someone a bit clever on the ball, and the games we should be winning, then for me, I'd put Eriksen in there because obviously he's a lot better at doing what he does and picking a ball out and picking a pass. So the nice thing is, again, what I mentioned earlier, we've got the depth now to rotate. That being said, Ten Hag still learning what his strongest 11 is, I'd imagine. But what a nice feeling it is to say, well, this game will put McTominay and Casemiro in, or this game might suit Fred and Casemiro, or this game we might need Fernandes and Eriksen because we should be getting at them and we should be picking the through balls out. So it's a lovely option to have, and it's an option we've not had for a long time. I mean, last season, the season before that, we've all been crying out for decent midfielders. Not just us. I think every Man United fan was all under the same impression that we needed to strengthen up that midfield, which we have done now. And it's just a nice option to have. I think for me now, if I'm being hypercritical, I think chances to actually converting chances probably need to improve because, like I say, I think I've wrote it down. We had 28 shots the other night. I think 18 in the first half. I know Lloris had a great game, but 28 shots, and there was some clear cut chances too in there. We probably should be knocking another couple of goals in. So if I was going to be critical of anything, really, it would just be the converting chances, which I think we need to improve on a little bit going forward.
Yeah. Some good comments coming in. Phil, before we move on to this 5 words or less United style, Casemiro, obviously, he took his while. Well, Ten Hag took his while to sort of implement him in the side, and you already had that kind of nonsense on socials. Like, oh, we've overpaid for him. Oh, he's not putting him in because he doesn't trust him. It's going to be Van der Beek all over again. Where do you stand on that? I mean, obviously he's come in. He's played fantastic in the last few games. Once he's got his rhythm, once he's found his place in the midfield, I mean, nobody's going to question that. Obviously, the jury's out on whether he'll be worth the money in which we've actually paid for him. What have you made of him so far? Are you impressed?
Yeah, I think in the first couple of games where he come on and had a couple of cameo roles, and he maybe gave a few little balls away because he's probably not used to the tempo and the high intensity of the Premier League, which we've seen that with a number of players. I wouldn't put him in a category that I wouldn't with any other players. I think initially when you come to this league and you've not played here before, it is probably a bit of a shock to the system. But I think he's adapted fantastically, and each game he's grew and got gradually better. And I think we've seen glimpses of it against Everton. I think we've seen in that game probably the worst and best of him. But I think since then, the other day, that performance was chalk and cheese to anything I've seen before, and I think he'll only get better from that. The confidence that kind of performance I'll give him now against a really good side as well. Not just an average team, Tottenham, who are up there in the league. They've got some really good players in that area of the pitch where he was operating, and I think he was, for me, man of the match. I think he dominated and did everything that we've seen him do over the years for Real Madrid. So obviously looking forward to him now growing, getting better, learning from Ten Hag, fitting into that style of play and the system that we're trying to implement. And as I say, I think from this point on, he'll go from strength to strength. So yeah, really looking forward to see how he progresses.
Yeah. I think too, just to add to that, just before I lose it in my head, the confidence having a player like Casemiro just sitting in front of that back four must give to the back four must be immense. I know if I was playing now and I had a player like Casemiro, it's a great thing to have, knowing that he's gonna give you that extra protection, and he's gonna help you out a lot more, which we've not had for a while. You know what I mean? Off a player of that nature. So I think as a back four, it's also giving the midfield confidence, but it's also giving the back four confidence too, which for me is a great thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think on the flip side of that as well, not only the defenders, I think players who are going forward as well, knowing that he's that kind of player that can sit in there, and if we do get counted on, we're confident that he can be somebody who can break up that play and sort of fill in them little gaps and smell the danger, if you like. So I think both ends of the pitch, he's been a massive bonus and a massive plus for us. So yeah, he's been fantastic, and looking forward to seeing how he keeps growing and getting better as well.
Yeah, a lot of love for him, definitely between us three, and also in the comments. Hella says Casemiro, Martinez with a fit Varane, big improvement on my heart rate and blood pressure, less heartburn. So yeah, for sure. I think he definitely helps at the triumvirate there. You've got Varane, Martinez, and De Gea. I think they're all Spanish speakers, so you've actually got a really good core. And Casemiro as well. He adds to that. And
I was just going to say, I think hell much like Latinos. I was just going to say that with them picking them through.
Yeah, there's a common theme there for sure. And Nico says, love this boy Casemiro. I knew he was good, but not this good. Rolls Royce of a CDM with bite. Rory says, evening lads. Casemiro is like Ron Seal. He does exactly what he says on the tin. Feels like Ten Hag. Didn't know what that was, but when he sits in front of that back four, very little gets past him. Simplicity. Nikos agree. A solid triangle of Martinez, Casemiro, and Varane is the base, which makes me believe we will have a good season. So, lads, 5 words or less. So we've seen United play the other night with all the kind of characteristics that you want to see from a good United side. I want to know what those qualities are to you. So if you're looking at a good United side, and you don't have to use all 5 words, you can just use one if you want. Good, attacking. Hopefully be a little bit more articulate than that. I'm sure you both will be. Lee, I'll come to you first. 5 words or less. What's the and get these in your comments as well if you're watching. 5 words or less. What does a good Manchester United side? What qualities do they have?
So I've just wrote 5 words there. As soon as you said it, it come into my head within 30 seconds, and I wrote them down, mate. It's the first one was pressing, the second one was confidence, the third one was work rate, the fourth one was passion, and the fifth one was ability. Because we know the team and we know the players have got natural ability, and they're a real good squad. They just need to show the confidence. I mean, they all intertwine with each other. You've got the ability. You need to have the confidence in yourself to show the ability. So they kind of link into each other. But that's the 5. And I feel like with the match what we watched the other day, them 5 points was shown off 1 to 11, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's my 5 words, mate.
Phil, they're great, by the way, Lee. They're great.
Yeah, probably got a couple of same as Lee. That I had desire, confidence, quality, and work rate. I think that they're the 4 main components to any successful team. If you've got all them, you're end up with more wins and more positives than negatives. I think any team has to have a base of players who work hard every single week. You've got to have players who play with confidence, because we seen last year, certain players, like Rashford, you could see he was totally shot of confidence. And what a different player he's been this season when he's got his confidence back.
Yeah.
Desire, you need to be going on that field knowing that you're representing the club, you're representing yourselves, you're playing for the fans, you're playing, and you're trying to win 3 points. It's not, just a kick about, and it doesn't matter. You've got to have that burning desire to want to win games of football. And for me, the quality as well. We've got players now in the team that have added that extra little bit of quality that we've started seeing a lot more on a consistent basis.
And what's nice to see too, Phil, and you'll know this with growing up at the club, and so do I, you need to have, you need to have team spirit. No matter how many players you've got in your team, and you could have the world's best players, but if you're not playing as a team and you've not got that team spirit, it's not going to work as a team itself. You can't just have individuals what pull you through. You might be able to have 1 or 2 games, but over a season, you need that cohesion within the team. And what's nice to see now is when someone's putting in a tackle or doing something well, you can see them going over and high-fiving each other, rubbing each other on the heads. It looks like they're getting that, that belief in the team. And that's going to be massive for the season for me. If they can keep that, camaraderie up between each other, then we could have a decent season.
Yeah.
Some good comments in here. Mark says pace, intensity, resilience, flair, attitude, hella strength, courage, consistency, togetherness, passion. I love these. It's like a focus group, isn't it? Like
I think that's a massive one too, is consistency, which is a great one because we have been inconsistent over a lot of years. It looks like we're turning a corner, and then we can have a run of 8 bad games, then we'll have a great game, and then so the consistency thing is a great one too.
Yeah, Nikos's comment. Almost didn't want to read it out, but I'm going to. Attractive, attacking, passionate, positive, speed. That's just my bedside manner. Moving on, because we did have a comment from Somia. He's talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. We've got 25 minutes in, and somehow we haven't mentioned the R word. Being a United fan since 2006, I've seen early stints where we were successful with Rooney and Ronaldo. Ronaldo will always have a special place in my heart, but what he did that day was wrong. Eric Ten Hag doesn't have a great bond with him, so we can sell him and get someone. Get your comments in, guys, about what you think about Ronaldo. Richard says, evening all. Richard, tell us what your thoughts are on what Ronaldo did the other night. Phil, obviously, I posted a tweet about this because obviously we've seen 48 hours since the game. And the initial reaction was, he's got up and he's left, and it's like, what's going on there? And I'm sure you saw me tweet about it, and like I was a little bit. I don't like criticizing players. I don't like doing that anyway. But especially not when he's been through a lot this year, and I didn't want to be like lumping on this and like going, he's been unprofessional. You just don't know. You don't know what's going on, but he did leave before the final whistle. By all accounts, he left the stadium before the game was over, and he wasn't in the dressing room when the team was celebrating. And everyone's come out and said, he wasn't missed, all that sort of nonsense from the journalists, which I'm not going to, again, not lumping in. But Ten Hag has specifically come out today and said he asked him to come on against Spurs, and he didn't. He said no, and he refused to come on. And then, obviously, the club have taken this decision, reportedly, to fine him. What we know for sure, because the club have announced it, is that he's not going to be involved in the squad tomorrow. So there's obviously a disciplinary action taken on that. And it brings this consequential question that everyone's saying, yet again, is this the time we cut our losses with him? And we probably have, in my opinion, we've reached the end of the road with him. It's a difficult scenario because we're just before the World Cup. He didn't have any takers in the summer. I think that it was quite widely agreed that in that last couple of weeks, the club were happy to listen to offers if they received something in there, and nothing worked because of the wages that he was on, and because a lot of clubs had already done the transfer activity. And obviously the Champions League, narrowed the list of the clubs that he wanted to go to as well. It's a very difficult situation. I mean, and you guys were both around him at the club, so I'm not asking you to throw a former team player under the bus, but he's the highest profile player in the world. It was a decision that he made that he knew would make headlines. He's come out and he hasn't apologized, but it amounts to an apology that he posted on social media. A lot of people say, he didn't apologize. I think what he posted pretty much amounted to it. He's saying, I did something wrong. I acted out of the moment, that kind of thing. Might be a PR spin, but it is a post nonetheless. Phil, what did you make of it? It was not great to see, but how much are you disappointed with him? How much do you think now with Ten Hag, he's had this happen before and he got rid of the player without playing him again. Where do you stand on this with what's happened with him over this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one for me. I mean, obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo's been, and he still is, my favourite player of all time. I idolise the guy. Absolutely love him. Obviously followed his career since obviously he joined the club. And for me, what he's done and what he's achieved in the game is extraordinary. We probably won't see anybody likes of him and Messi come along for a very long time. So for me, I think what he's done is completely out of order. He's disrespected his teammates, the manager. And that's for me, unacceptable. And I think the club and I think Ten Hag has dealt with it magnificently. I think he's dealt with it really quickly, swift action. He's put his mark down. He's not really bothered about Cristiano Ronaldo, the world superstar. He's dealt with it. He's gave the punishment, and he's shown and sent a message to the rest of the team by doing that, saying, this is the rules and stuff that we've got at the club. If you don't stick to them, and if you don't show and respect the rules, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have a consequence to pay. So I think the manager's done absolutely fantastic, and I think the punishment is worthy of the action that he did. So missing the game, getting fined 2 weeks' wages, if he has to train on his own for a couple of days or whatever, then that's great. And I think obviously that's all the club can do from their standpoint. In regards to Cristiano and the way he dealt with the situation, I think for me, I was thinking about this long and hard, and I was trying to put myself, in his position, after, being such a prolific goal scorer, playing every single week at the top level, for 15 plus seasons, and then coming to a stage in his career now where in his mind, he still feels as though, he's the best player in the world. He's still got a lot to offer. He's still in his head, got stuff that he can do on the pitch. I think as a club and as fans, we're all aware now that Cristiano Ronaldo is not the player that he once was, and that he's not able to play every single week like he has done for the past however many seasons. But I just think in his mind and in his head, because of the drive and the passion and the sort of levels that he sets himself, he sees that him not being on that pitch as the manager maybe disrespecting him and not thinking that he's up to the task. And I think for me, at this moment in time now, we've come to a position and we've come to a stage where I think it probably is best for both parties if he does move on. I think in January, I think for himself, where he could go somewhere else and probably play. I think obviously Ten Hag set out his stall now with the way he wants to play. I think the style of play and sort of the intensity that needs doesn't really suit Cristiano, and I think it just probably is the time now where it's a situation he still feels as though he can play week in, week out and has a lot to offer, which I admire him for, and I still think he can do that. But at this moment in time and at Manchester United where we are as a club, I think, it's probably the right time for him to move on.
Lee, what did you make of it? I mean, it's a difficult thing to look at. It's not, and a lot of people are reveling in it. I'm certainly not, because he's a player that I certainly don't dislike. I don't harbour any ill will over even the transfer requests, or they're treating me like a slave, all that. Just part of the game. I'm not really that bothered. I do think that he has a genuine affection for United. I don't think he's completely selfish to the point where it's only about him. Richard says in the comments here that Erik ten Hag has handled the situation well, like Phil said. Where do you stand on this? Obviously, it's a very, very difficult scenario. I agree. Ten Hag has handled it magnificently, the best way that he could have done. And we should say as well, he's had the backing of the club to do so, because in the past, with lesser players than Ronaldo, managers have not been backed. So he's obviously been backed in a really intense power moment, and he's been backed to sort of handle that transition. What do you make of it? Obviously, we want to be talking about United winning 2-0 against Spurs, and we have dedicated 20-odd minutes to it, but we've got to talk about Ronaldo, and it's a bit sad even from Ronaldo's perspective that he did that when the team had played so well.
Yeah, there's not much really more to add than what Phil said. Like I say, as a player, everybody knows how good he's been, the world's best, especially for me in our generation. If not, he's up there ever. And I think it's a classic scenario of in his head, he's probably still thinking the same as when he was thinking when he was 21 and 22, but his body won't let him do what he could do 5-6 years ago. So in his head, he's still thinking, I'll get me on the pitch, I'll do this and do that. But age catches up with everybody, unfortunately, it has to. So it's a difficult situation for him too, because obviously he's had take yourself outside of football, what's happened to him this year, and he's had a pretty rotten year anyway. And then to go to, the club you love, especially when all the other clubs you've been the number one player for every club and scored so many goals for them and first name on the team sheet, to then, not be starting every game and, getting asked to warm up in injury time. He's probably seen it as a bit of a kick in the teeth, but you've got to come to the realization sometimes that you're not as good as you used to be. And we all know he's not as good as he used to be. I know he was our top goal scorer last season, but he can't. If it was me and I was 10, I'd put it one way. Rashford showing the confidence he's showing, I would be playing Rashford up front instead of Ronaldo. And that's not anything against Ronaldo or anything like that. It's just he's watching every week in training, off the field, on the field. He's putting performances in, and he's going to be choosing his team off that. And fair play to Ten Hag, because, like I say, he's not going with the normal, oh, we've got Cristiano Ronaldo, we need to play him. It's Ronaldo, get him on. He's playing people, it looks like, on merit, which I totally agree with. It's just a hard situation. We all love Ronaldo. Ronaldo, I think, loves the club. Like I say, it's just probably coming to a time now where it's probably a bit like you said, best to part ways. Let him go and have a last hurrah somewhere else. If I was Cristiano, I'd be going to America or somewhere like that. That's what I would personally be doing. Getting idolised over there, making plenty of money. Finishing my career off on a high instead of trying to compete at a level now where he's probably not got the physical ability to match these up and coming young lads like your Haalands and people like that. At the minute, he doesn't get into that category, and it's a shame. It's a real shame, because he's been the best for a long, long time. But yeah, there's not real.
Lee, just a quick one as well. I heard this point before, and I think it's a really, really good point on Cristiano. I'm interested to hear yours and Wayne's thoughts on this, because I actually didn't really think about this. But obviously, Cristiano being, the player he's been for the last 15 years, he's probably never, ever been told no in his career. He's probably never had to answer to anybody. He's probably always thought he was guaranteed to start. He's probably, it's probably a shock to the system to sort of, for him to sort of come to the realization that, I'm not going to be starting games every single week. I might not be, the main man here. I might not, be playing in games that I think I'm going to be playing, or getting as many minutes on the pitch that I probably feel as though I deserve. So I think when you've been at that level that he's been at for such a long time, and with the accolades and the sort of trophies that he's won, a lot that goes along with that, I think sometimes as a player, I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes as a player that's been at that top level, and some of the seasons and the goal returns that he's had, to come to a point now where he's at and being told, you're not starting, you're not playing, you're only going to play every other game, and this kind of thing. I think for me that must be hard to sort of deal with from his point of view, as well as everything else that he's had going on this year, with the baby and all that kind of stuff. So it is totally out of order what he's done, but I think sometimes, as we say, we are only human. I think for somebody like him who's had the career that he's had, sometimes it might just be he's lost his head for that moment in time. I'm just interested to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, it was kind of what I was bordering on trying to say anyway, Phil, if I'm being honest. Like you say, he's been so used to being number one for so long, and it's probably so hard for him to come to the realization that he can't do what he used to be able to do. He's probably frustrated in himself, you know what I mean? Like say, when he gets the ball, he can't take the ball and beat anyone for pace anymore. The defenders have caught up with him, they're quicker than him. He's not the same player. It must be really, really disheartening for him, and his head, for want of other words, he's probably up his backside with it a lot. You know what I mean? And let's be honest, Phil, you would have done it and I've done it. Frustration through football, it makes you do silly things. You know what I mean? I've done silly things with frustration, and I put on the point what you went at. I can only say I finished football at 21 because of injury, and then about 26, 27, I just went playing semi-pro for Wigan Robin Park. And I even remember then when I went back and I started training, and I felt like I was getting back into it. I was nowhere near the player what I was when I was 21, and that was disheartening then for myself. So imagine being at the level Ronaldo's been at,
Yeah,
and you know, it's got to be hard to take for him, and it's hard. I totally disagree with what he did. I don't think it's right. He shouldn't have done it. He should have had more respect for the club. He should have had more respect for himself, more respect for the fans doing it. But I can understand why he's done it, if that makes sense. And the other point I'd get across too, if it wasn't Ronaldo, what did it? If it was any other United player, there wouldn't be half the press going on, would there? It's just because it's Ronaldo. It's getting for me, it's getting highlighted so much because it's Ronaldo. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess even if it was, let's say,
I think if Sancho did it or anyone like that,
yeah,
it would have been mentioned, but
camera wouldn't even be on them. Probably they've probably just gone down the tunnel. That's it. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have been anything. And you're both absolutely right in what you're saying. I didn't think about it from that perspective before with Ronaldo. I think there are two things on there. The first is that, well, there are many things, but two things come to my mind. And the first is that he's obviously been chasing that Champions League record. He's very cautious of it with Messi, and we don't know if Messi's going to bridge that gap. But he's very conscious of it, and he wants to make sure that he's keeping the gap. And it's going to be tough for him to do that. He's probably already looking at not even the knockouts. He might think Chelsea, but he's probably looking at who in Portugal is going to be in the top two next season, who's going to play in the Champions League and play in the group stages. There's that. The other thing that as well, I've got a little bit of sympathy with him. Well, I've got a lot of sympathy with him because, like you said, Father Time's caught up to him, and it's not great to watch that. But the other side of it is that he's been asked specifically to do certain things, right? They've said, "Oh, he's not pressing forward," but nobody can say that they've watched Ronaldo this season and said that he hasn't tried to press. He's tried to execute that game plan. He's never, when he's been on the pitch, you haven't seen him do he was a little bit in last autumn when things were really going bad. You could see that he was getting frustrated. We're like 4-0 down against Liverpool, and he's looking around going, "What's going on?" You haven't seen that under Ten Hag. You've seen him go on and be willing, and I think his frustration comes in the things that he probably thinks when he sees Rashford get into the positions that he does, and he's quite profligate with the chances. He thinks, I could have scored that, and it may well be able to do that in the positions that he's in, but it's Rashford's legs that are getting him into those positions, and it's the devil in the deep blue sea for Ten Hag. What does he do in that situation? Ronaldo, I don't think his legs are completely gone, because we saw with the Everton game, he probably against Spurs, he could have probably got away with it because Dyer's not the quickest. He's got the space to do that. He probably did. That's probably kind of why he threw the hissy fit, because he's thinking, I scored a hat trick against these guys 5 or 6 months ago. I'm not that far away, but yeah, I just think with everything that's gone on, it is probably time to sort of call it a day and find the best exit. At one point over the last 24, 48 hours, I was thinking we're probably going to see a repeat of the Roy Keane thing where they'll just make an announcement that they've cancelled the contracts or something.
I thought that. So I had that in the head, yeah.
But they haven't. He's still there. He'll probably be there. I think even Ronaldo and Mendes will be talking to the club saying, just keep him around until the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? He's got to be there. Do you know, until the World Cup? Haller says, I think this summer when there were no clubs going in for him must have been a shock and a wake-up call. It's a completely unfamiliar situation for him, and it's sad, to be honest. I recognise the extreme skill and what he's achieved for every club he's played at. He's never been my favourite, and that's due to the body language and attitude, not what we needed. Richard kind of agrees with that. He says, very petulant behaviour from Ronnie. He's embarrassed the club and himself. We need to sell in January because he's clearly not part of Eric's plans. I don't even think there'll be a fee at this point. And Nikos says, more with his antics, his physical attributes. It's like me when I go to a pub. I still think I'm 21 years old. I can't do the same things anymore. Should have seen us.
I'll second that one. I'll definitely second that one.
I was going to say, like us three on the podcast Christmas do last year. We had the idea of 12 o'clock, but the body of 10 o'clock. All right, so we'll talk about Chelsea preview. Tomorrow, tomorrow we'll know the result. Chelsea have been really, really good under Graham Potter. He's got a little bit of that style already working. You know what you're going to get from a Graham Potter team. His Brighton teams usually outplayed us, and sometimes they battered us as well, especially at their place. So he's going to know exactly what to expect from United, and he's going to be, he's already beaten us once this season and outplayed us at Old Trafford as well. So he's going to be fancying his chances for a second win with theoretically a better group of players. Lee, come to you first with this. It's a difficult one, but he's had a great start. You know, he's won in the San Siro. You know, I know it's not the place that it used to be in terms of football royalty at the moment, but it's still, in terms of football heritage, if you can go to a big club and one of your first wins is at the San Siro, then it's a significant tick. And they've done quite well in the league so far. They've done very well in the league so far under Graham Potter, not put a foot wrong. What are you expecting tomorrow?
More of the same than what we're seeing against Tottenham. I wouldn't expect nothing less now, to be honest with you. I think we play the same way. I'd stick with the same team, if I'm being completely honest. Keep the confidence going, keep the high intensity going. He's a fantastic manager. He sets his stall out well. We know that Potter with the teams, what he's brought to us before. You know, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be physical. There's going to be plenty of, I mean, look at the forward players they've got. You know, they've got an abundance of forward players. What's going to keep Martinez and hopefully Varane, if they're both playing together, on the toes. But I'm less worried after watching that Tottenham game than I would be any other time. I think if we can build on that, I think we give any team in the league a game. So I just kind of expect more of the same as what we did against Tottenham. I'm not sure if have we got any injuries from the game, or are we still all fit? That, you know, the starting 11 a day still all fit. I'm not sure.
No new concerns. I think he said Martial's still out. So
yeah. So I'd completely just keep it as it was. If everyone's fit, take them with the same game plan, and I can see us getting a result. And I'm quite confident at saying I can see us getting a result if we carry on playing the way we did, and we stick our chances away.
Yeah, Phil, it's an interesting one because if you look at Ten Hag this season, I'm not going to say he's faultless. He's made a few errors with his selections and his game plans. Does it help him that he's played against the Graham Potter side? Then you know what I mean. He's like the first half against Brighton, it was like he was caught a little bit cold, but he made the changes at half time. It was like, all right, we were a little bit better. Is it? I mean, they're playing the same kind of way. Graham Potter's not going to set his team up to play any different. Obviously, they got different qualities in the players. It's not going to hurt him, is it, Ten Hag, that he's already played against him?
No, definitely. I think, you know, that's, you know, the fine details that these top managers, you know, go through. And, you know, after already playing him when he was at Brighton, I think, as you just said, it's a similar style, similar system. So I think that will definitely benefit and definitely help. But for me, I think Ten Hag's the type of manager where, you know, he's more concentrating on what we do and how we go about winning that game of football. And I think, you know, coming off the back of our best performance that we've had in a number of years, certainly. For me, it's just, you know, you don't really need to say much other than, you know, same again, lads type of thing, because, as I said, I think it was the most complete performance we've had for a long while. Same team, same attitude, same desire, same energy and same quality. You know, we definitely get a result. I think Chelsea have been really good this year. But, you know, we've seen tendencies that they are, you know, susceptible and we can get at them. And I think if we, you know, play the way we did the other day, then, you know, we're more than capable of getting the 3 points. I think, you know, if we play the way we did against Tottenham, you know, every game, you know, we'd give every team a game, even Man City. I think, you know, the other week when we played them, you know, that was nowhere near the levels that, you know, we was the other day. So, you know, that's the benchmark now we've set. And I think, obviously, you're not going to be able to hit that every single week, but, you know, we need to be, you know, consistent and trying to, you know, hit that level of performance as much or as close to that as often as we can. And you know, we won't go far wrong this year.
I think if they hit the intensity and the passion, which they should be able to hit every week anyway. I'm not saying they might be able to hit the ability every week, but if they hit they do the basics right, which we say the pressing and the running and the intensity and the will to win. If we get that right every week, then like you say, we should be able to give anyone a game, mate. I think I can only see the only change I can see. I've got a feeling they might drop Fred and bring Eriksen in.
Well, let me come on to that, because I wouldn't be filling Keane's shoes with any appropriate quality if I didn't talk about the team selection and score prediction. I'll just got 2 comments before I do that. Richard says, as long as we don't get beat, I'll be okay with it. A draw's not bad. We need to go for the win. We've got the team to do it. Hella says, if we play like we did on Wednesday, we can take this. Chelsea are inconsistent and have weaknesses. They drew against Brentford, who were relentless, energy and pace. It's exactly the same kind of qualities Lee was just talking about. Okay, so Lee, I'll come to you first. Team selection, score prediction. And by the way, Keano will be watching this back. You're not allowed to make like post-match declarations of your team lineup and score, Keen. You've got to watch it back. You've got to give... I'm sure you'll be in touch with the lads to give them your team selection and score prediction before. So, Lee, you and your team and score prediction.
2-0 United. And I think he drops Fred and brings Eriksen in, but I think he keeps the rest the same. So De Gea, Delova, Van Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Eriksen, Fernandes, Antony, Sancho, Rashford.
Even though you'd keep Fred in, you think
I'd keep Fred in, but I think he'll bring Eriksen back in and drop Fred.
Yeah, Phil?
I just think he'll keep the same team from Tottenham. I think after that kind of performance, I don't think anybody deserves resting, dropping, whatever. Just keep that momentum going. Same performance, same team. I'm going to go for 2-1. I think it'll be a closer game. I think Chelsea are always good for a goal. But yeah, I think, if we can match their intensity and keep the quality levels up to what they have been recently, I think we can just sneak a 2-1 win, which would be a great result. And the 7 points from the 3 games that I said would be a great return.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know what? De Gea, I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but De Gea, he's 499th, he's 500th, and his 501st game for United. He kept clean sheets in all of them. He's climbed over the mountain. He's done quite well with that. And yeah, I'd like a 4th one. I think Chelsea are good for a goal there, and they're playing quite well at the moment. Even though they don't have Reece James, apparently that's what they're saying in the comments, and James might even be out of the World Cup. And I'll be honest, not just saying it because I don't like Liverpool, but I rate James as the best right back in the country. So
easily, I think he's definitely the best fullback. He'd been starting 11 for England all day long for me.
Yeah, so
most complete in terms of all-round package. I think he's defensively and offensively really, really good.
It was amazing at Wigan when he was a young lad and he came to Wigan. He was absolutely phenomenal at Wigan. And I remember some of my mates were avid Wigan supporters saying he will be England's right back. And I was like, I'm on at Wigan. They knew what they were talking about.
Unfortunately, probably not going to be this winter because of the injury. It looks like it, but it does bode well for our chances tomorrow. If you've enjoyed watching the YouTube. Watching us on YouTube or Facebook, do please leave a comment below and give us a like and subscribe as well. We do feel free to comment as well because we do reply to comments after the live shows. If you're listening back on the audio podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe on the platform you're listening on. It's been a great show with the guys. Really appreciate the time. We'll be back. Well, I don't know if I'll be back next week. Maybe I will, but maybe Keen will be back as well to take over. But yeah, we miss Keane. We'll get Keane back on. Even if I'm back on, we'll bring Keane back on. Of course we will. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for listening, guys. And we will be back next week.